Welcome back to my kitchen, everyone. The next page in our taco manual takes us to a regional specialty called michiotes. Let me explain. So michiotes are found all through the central part of Mexico. The first place I ever encountered them was in the state of Puebla, but you find them all over central Mexico. And they're little packets that you cook food in. But it's that wrapper that's actually called the michiote. And when you see those really large agave plants, you know, the ones that the heart of which is used to make the tequila and mezcal, well, the leaves, the pencas, they call them in Spanish, you can strip a membrane off the outside of them and it looks just like parchment paper. It has an aroma to it, but you can just use that and wrap foods up and then either cook them in a pit in the ground, just like you would barbacoa, or a lot of people will just do it in a steamer. I kind of like to roast them in the oven. And I'm going to take you to a place of making a great taco filling that is made from mushrooms and some potatoes. A little bacon is going to go in there, a bunch of garlic, olive oil. It's just spectacular because as you cook all the food in this sealed pouch, let's call it a pouch like a beggar's purse, all the flavors meld so beautifully that, well, you've never tasted anything quite like it. So to get this thing started, we have to make our pouch exterior. And I'm not going to ask you to go to Mexico and buy michiotes. They're really hard to find and in some states even outlawed because they don't want people going through the agave fields and stripping these membranes off. So a lot of people have moved over to using parchment paper now, which is what we're going to use today for making these. So most of the parchment you find in a grocery store will be in about a 12-inch length roll. And so I want to make a square basically here. If I can get this started, I put my scissors over there because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do this, but I'm getting pretty good at it here. Okay, so now I've got my square, but we have to actually get these wet so that we can make into the pouch at the end when we've got all of the ingredients together. So I'm just going to quarter that. I've got 3 more of them already over here in some water. So I'll just put it down in there and they won't fall apart. They'll just get a little damp and they'll be way more malleable, easy to work. So I'll set that aside. Now, what I have here is 2 kinds of mushrooms. You can make this with any kind of mushrooms, but I have a couple of my favorites. One is oyster mushrooms, which I love for their texture, and they kind of come together in clumps like that. And then at the bottom of the bowl here, I have a whole bunch of shiitakes, which I like for their flavor. It's a really robust flavor. So I'm going to slice these up into about 1/2-inch pieces. I've got a couple of boiling potatoes, which I like for their creamy texture. I'm going to cut those into little squares that are a little bigger than 1/4 inch. I've got 8 cloves of garlic. Yes, lots of garlic, which is what is so perfect with the mushrooms, and I'm going to chop that up. I've got a couple of arbol chilies here that I'm just going to cut up. You could use chili flakes for this if you wanted to. And because I love the flavor of mushrooms with bacon, I'm using some bacon. You could leave that out and just increase the oil in this by a little bit. So I'll meet you back here when all that prep is done. this is what it looks like right here. You can see the pieces of the mushroom, the finely chopped garlic, the potatoes. I've got my little bit of arbol chili there and the pieces of bacon. I'm going to put about a third of a cup, a little over a third of a cup, 6 tablespoons to be precise, of olive oil in there. You could use regular oil, but I like the flavor of olive oil. And we have to put salt, of course, which I'll do in just a second, and an herb. So what I have here is epazote. In Mexico, when you're talking mushrooms, you're usually talking about epazote. So it's a jagged leaf herb that you can find in lots and lots of Mexican grocery stores. And it's a kind of strong flavor, best when it is cooked with things. So I'm going to put a couple of big sprigs of that in there, tearing off the leaves. I'm going to chop these guys up. Well, I'm really going to slice them because I like to make those little thin slices like that, keeping the leaves bunched up. I'm just going down, inching my left hand back and cutting all the way down to the end because we took the big thick stems off of it. Okay, about that much of it will be good. This is up to your own taste there. But if you have a chance to use the epazote in here, do it because it's really, really delicious. And then a measured amount of salt for this recipe, which will be a real heaping teaspoon of salt. Mushrooms and potatoes both really need a good amount of salt. So I'm going to sprinkle that over the top of it. And then mix everything well together. And then we're ready to make these michiotes, even though we're not using the true michiote wrapper for it. But it's the same style of cooking, and we'll get a lot of the same results. Now, I said that the true michiote has a lot of flavor. It's a kind of green flavor, and it is distinctive. We, of course, won't be able to get that in here, but what we're going to produce, I think you're really, really going to like. Okay, so our damp pieces of parchment here. I'll take one of them out and show you how we do this. Just unfold it. You don't have to dry it off or anything. We'll put a quarter of this mixture in the middle of it, about like that. And then gather up the 4 corners. This is the way I do it anyway. Gather up the 4 corners and then pull the other corners in as well so that you form this little purse like that. And then you'll need string to tie it. What I'm using here is a type of jute that we use for certain things in our restaurant. And it's a pretty color one that you could do with that. You could use butcher's twine for this. And I'm just going to make a bow here, just like that, so that you've got your purse there. And then I'm gonna make 3 more of these. Okay, we're finished with the making of the packages. I'm going to put them on a rimmed baking sheet. I've got the oven heated to 325 degrees, and we're going to bake these for 45 minutes until we can see little bubbles like it's boiling on the inside through the parchment paper. I'll show you what that's like. Okay, it's time to unveil these beauties. I can see that they're really bubbling beautifully, so I know that everything in there is going to be nicely cooked. But let's open one of these packets up here and move it over here. Just pull the string and you can undo that and then open it up. Or if that doesn't come easily, you can always do what I'm prepared to do here, which is just to snip that and open it up. And this is the moment that I'm always waiting for, because this releases all of that beautiful aroma. So remember what we've got in there is the mushrooms and olive oil and garlic. See the steam come out of there, the little bits of bacon. So once you open this up, and you would have one for each person here, then just stir it nicely. You can see how beautiful that is, and how absolutely mouth-watering it looks and smells. I've got warm tortillas here, so I'm going to take a couple of these guys out and lay them over here, and spoon on some of this mushroom michiote mix here. Yeah, look at that. I like the potato in there. I give you in the recipe also a red chili version of this if you want to go that direction. And if you want to put cactus in it, like goes into a lot of michiotes, you'll have the recipe for that as well. Next thing to go on here will be just a little bit of roasted tomatillo salsa on each one of them. You can use whatever salsa appeals to you. For this, I like to put just a little bit of Mexican queso fresco over the top of it, because that adds, I think, a nice dimension of flavor that's really different than the long cooked mushrooms that are here. Squeeze on just a little bit of lime juice, and right there you have it, like one of the most amazing flavors, and certainly something you can't get down at your local taqueria.